Welcome to episode 387 of the DFO Rundown, as always brought to you by our title sponsor, Bet365. Get in the game, stay in the game at Bet365. Stanley Cups around the corner, NBA Championship, and much, much more. I'm Jason Gregor. We welcome in Frank Seravalli. Of course, we're talking Stanley Cup. We got some coach moves to discuss, maybe a world championship. And I guess let's start with, Frank, do we know who's going to the Stanley Cup? Do these two series make you think it's over?
Hard to argue otherwise. I mean, both of them are pretty lopsided, and we're on track for not only a very unentertaining conference final round, but also maybe some good news, potentially an early Stanley Cup final.
Yes. Well, you'd think, I guess the earliest the orders could finish is Thursday, right? Florida could finish on Monday if they sweep the Hurricanes. How quick of a turnaround? Are you talking like next Monday? What do you think?
No. So I think the dates are, if both end in relatively short fashion, I don't know exactly what the parameters are, but my understanding is June 4th would be game one.
Okay.
And if it goes any longer, I don't know, pick a certain day, probably Saturday, that June 7th would be the opener.
Yeah, because last year they actually had 5 and 6 days off each because they finished on the 1st and the 2nd, and then the playoffs started. The Stanley Cup final started on the 8th. So, yeah, a little bit earlier would be nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, it gives everyone so much more time to, starting next Sunday, scouting combine in Buffalo, like we're right into off-season mode. So pretty significant move by the New York Islanders, for instance, making their GM hire with Mathieu Darche, and we'll touch on that. But first, before we really dive into the playoffs, I need a ruling. Was at dinner tonight, and I saw a cocktail on the menu that really piqued my interest.
Ooh.
It was a peach margarita, and then at the bottom it said, option to make it spicy. So I went with spicy peach margarita. Is that a girly beverage?
Well, it sounds like you were just trying to make it less, and I'm not sure that really worked. Did you try it spicy?
I'm telling you, it was one of the best drinks I've had in 5 years.
So what did they put in it to make it spicy?
Jalapenos.
Really? Jalapenos and peach?
It was unbelievable. In fact, I would be guzzling from a pitcher right now and waking up with heartburn tomorrow if we didn't have to do the pod tonight.
Really? Peach? I don't mind margaritas, man. I'm telling you. I can, you know what? The coconut margaritas are unreal if you've ever had one. Lime, I love the classic lime.
But I felt problematic ordering a peach margarita.
I don't think so.
No. So I get a seal of approval.
I don't mind. Like to me, it just looks like a slush. So what's wrong with that? Right, it's warm.
I do like in Canada, like if you go to like Cactus Club or somewhere and they throw the slush on top.
Oh yeah. Well, you can do that even with beer, right? You have a beer with a slush in it. Oh yeah. Hey, you can mix the two. It's pretty good.
Ooh.
Iceberg.
An iceberg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had them. Pretty good.
Sorry for the diversion. I needed a ruling.
No, I don't mind it. You can mix a lot of different things in. So I'm actually, I have a Thursday segment on my show, and I'm learning all about different alcohols all over. And buddy, I had a non-alcoholic Guinness. I could not believe how good it was. It was like I was drinking Guinness. And so now there's a thing called striping. Do you know what striping is? It's like you drink a real beer, and then you drink the non-alcoholic one, then you drink a real one. So if you go to a house party and you want to have 2 drinks, but you can end up having 4, but you only really have 2 because the 2 non-alcoholic ones, because you know all the psychological studies on it, just feels good to have a drink in your hand. And so this way they call it striping. And I took a real Guinness and then I took the non-alcoholic one, and I literally couldn't tell the difference. I couldn't believe it.
Did you try and stop it on the G or no?
No, I did not.
Can you still do that with the non-alcoholic one, or is that fraudulent?
Yeah, I never tried that. Yeah. I just pour it, man. I've never tried it. It's like, hey, I could make a joke here about finding G. It's not something I worry about. So no, I'm just, in there for a good time.
Oh my God. All right. Onward.
I'm kidding. It's easy to find. Now let's start with Darche. His name's been out there. That a lot of people thought this is a good up and comer. Has been in a winning organization for quite some time, and now he's a new GM in Long Island.
His resume is fascinating. He's someone that obviously had an NHL playing career and then worked in the corporate world and was hired by the Tampa Bay Lightning, and for the last 6 years has basically been the jack of all trades. He's done just about, or I'd say a little bit of everything over the course of that time, and has learned a lot at the knee of Julien Brisebois. So I think the really interesting part for me, this is a 5-week search. Why did it take so long? Like, it's like he was a guy that kind of was at the top of the list, or certainly, on the short list a long time ago. Why so long? Like, why such a lengthy process? That would be my big question.
Well, I guess to me, it's like, did you have to rush it to say, hey, we can do it in 3 weeks or 4? I kind of like that they took their time, because I think we've seen some organizations not do enough of a thorough one. So I don't think they're in a major rush. Now the other thing is, Frank, I heard that, they were close with Ken Holland and that didn't happen. So, that was a part of it.
Yeah. But now look at all the decisions that need to happen in another 5-week period of time. First step is make a decision on Patrick Roy. Is there any leg up for Patrick Roy knowing that Mathieu Darche is a French speaker? Does that help the process? I don't know. I couldn't say. I don't know what their relationship is, if any.
Yeah.
And I just think the deck is stacked a little bit against Patrick Roy, because he has been so vocally and openly critical of his general manager. If I'm a first-time GM, even if I'm an experienced Hall of Fame general manager as Lou Lamoriello, I don't want someone publicly out there barking at me after games about my roster decisions. If I'm a first-time GM, I sure as heck don't want that either. So I feel like the chances are somewhat low that Patrick Roy returns, but he also has a relatively lengthy extension. I believe last summer he got a new 3-year extension. So you never know how that impacts it as well, but it's the coaching staff and Patrick Roy and what happens there. As I mentioned, right into the draft scouting combine. And then, and a lot of business gets done at the scouting combine. I know the league has tried real hard to crack down on tampering, but like there's meetings all the time between teams and agents, particularly, I'm sure it's about their guys in the draft, but wink, wink, the guys that they have that are free agents or guys that they're trying to get moved off their current teams. I'm sure they just happen to come up in conversation. So that, and then you're right into it right after that. You've got your signing deadlines for RFAs. You're right into the draft and free agency. Like, he's going to be drinking from a fire hose for the next little bit on Long Island.
Yeah. And my gut, and I have no insight. I haven't talked to anybody in Long Island, Frank, but my gut says, well, I was going to stay. So we'll see if I'm right or not, but I kind of have a sense that, the GM will come in, Mathieu Darche, and he'll say, hey, let's give the guy an opportunity. Maybe we're going to have a different relationship. The French Canadians have a tendency to be fiery, and that's not a bad thing. And so they're both French Canadian. They both maybe can understand each other a little bit better in that regard.
Yeah. Look, again, I have no idea how it's going to go, but, and you're right. There is certainly something to that. And I think there's lots of managers that come in and say, hey, I don't want to be the guy that just, gongs someone before even working with them. Let me give them an opportunity. And sometimes it feels like they enter the season with the writing on the wall, which kind of makes the season even more pointless or difficult for them to overcome. But I think it's unquestioned that Patrick Roy is a good coach, but the other part of it is he's done nothing to shed the label of someone that is either power hungry or wants more decision-making process in personnel and roster decisions. And that part was what plagued him for a long time, leaving Colorado to get back. It took him a decade to get another shot in the NHL again, and he hasn't helped shed that storyline or narrative, because I don't think we've ever seen a coach be as critical of his general manager as Wah has been throughout his tenure on Long Island. Like he doesn't hide it.
No, he hasn't. And you know what? Hey, I guess if someone say, hey, you should play better in the sandbox, I understand that side of it. But on the other side, sometimes coaches say, hey, man, there's some players here that I don't want. And that's always a challenge. Like, to me, the coach should always 100% get to choose the players he has. And, now at the same time, does he have 100% say in everybody they sign? That's obviously a fine balance for sure. But I think it was clear that he didn't like the makeup of his team. I think that's fair to say.
Well, but let me remind you, like, you're there to coach. Coaches coach, managers manage. And we know that every coach is only as good as the players that he's handed. But at the same time, that's not what your role is. Your role is to do the best with what you're given. And if you're belly aching about that, then that's on you. You got to just put your head down and do the job.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Let's go to the East, of course, because Monday when the pod comes out, we're recording it Sunday night. It's game 4 in Florida, and Frank, like, it's 3-0, and this series, it's like it's 4-0. This has been an absolute ass kicking by the Florida Panthers from the minute this series began. It hasn't been close at all.
No, I mean, there were maybe some stretches in game 1 that you could point to say that the Carolina Hurricanes looked okay, but it's been a long time since then. And this series was over when they lost game 2 on home ice. That was the big one. So this Canes team looks defeated. I think you can see it in their body language. I think you can see it almost in the body language of their coach, who's usually an extraordinarily positive guy, but also a realist. And I think this Carolina team, it's yet another measuring stick to show how far they have to go, because they're a really good team. They're a good team in the regular season, but I think we all have hesitated at varying points to put them in the contender category. And I think this playoff series, this playoff run is another reason why. Well,
it's very similar to past years for Carolina, a little bit different. But I think when Eric Tulsky, when their season's officially over, because I'm sorry, they're not winning 4 straight. So it's just a matter of if it ends in 4 or 5, but they're not winning 4 straight against Florida. There's no chance. So when it's done, I think Tulsky knows. Obviously, that's why he acquired Mikko Rantanen. They know that they lack a game breaker. So that's one piece of it. But
they're not hiding it. They're not running from it either.
No.
They did it and it didn't work.
Yeah. I think there's some other elements, though, to their team, Frank, that it sounds weird, but they play such a composed style. It's like they never get outside of it. And I don't, you know what? Everybody has analytics now. Some are obviously still a little bit better at it than others, but Florida is a team that uses lots of analytics. And so you can have guys who are good puck possession, all that stuff, and you can still have guys who have a prick factor. So if you're going to look at the analytics, then you should look at some other elements at the same time. And I know they went out and got William Carrier, great, but they're hard to find. But I look at their back end. They got to have some diversity, in my opinion, on their back end. They don't really have a banger. I think you need a banger on your back end a little bit. And not like it's obviously hard to go get somebody who's a top. I'm not talking that. It's just you can have a third pair guy sometimes who can make an impact.
Chatfield is usually that guy.
Little bit, yeah. And they've missed him. You're right. He's missed some games. So I don't know, man. I'll be curious. Like Orloff, Burns, their back end's getting older. I think we're going to see a significant kind of overhaul on the fly here by Carolina in the offseason.
They did that already. Shea and
but I think they can do it again
from last year to this year. Yeah, you keep evolving. That's what you do.
Yeah,
and I think they're the poster child for that.
Yeah. Well, they evolve, but when you get deeper in the playoffs, Frank, all their evolution hasn't led to any improvement. That's all. Like the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think they would be the first to acknowledge that's factual, that this team has a long way to go.
Yeah.
As close as they seem. Like getting to the Final Four 3 times in 7 years is an accomplishment, but not getting any further than halfway in terms of games won means that you've got work to do. So look, if you listened to the pod last week, you would have heard my rant on that 0 for 15, or at the time it was 0 for 14 or 0 for 13 stat, the Hurricanes in the conference final. I just want to read you this tweet because, Jay, I want to see if you can, without looking, I want to see if you can figure out who these other teams are, okay?
Okay.
Teams that have won an Eastern Conference final game since 2007. Here's the list. Panthers, Rangers, Lightning, Islanders, Bruins, Capitals, Penguins, Senators, Canadiens, Devils, Flyers, Sabres. They've all won since 2007, at least one game in the conference final. The Hurricanes are one of 4 teams that haven't. This is just pure trivia. Who are the other 3?
In the Eastern Conference, well, obviously the Maple Leafs. So that's kind of the easy one. Now, does Montreal classify, even though they won in the Canadian?
They won. Yeah. They went to a cup final.
Yeah, but they won in the Canadian division. But okay, so we're talking Eastern Conference.
But they also won in 2010. They won games.
Oh yeah, that's right. They upset. That was the Halak upsetting Ovi, one of the greatest series. Game 5, 6, and 7 might be the greatest upset games by a goalie, maybe ever. Like he also
went another year with Carey Price to the conference final, I think.
To the conference final in 15?
I think so.
Okay, I might have. Okay, so Toronto, just Eastern Conference?
Yeah, so there's 3 teams. So Toronto's won.
Let me think. Washington, Buffalo, Ottawa. I'm trying to go through all the teams here.
It's kind of a fun exercise.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, Philly. No, they've all been there. Devils went to them 2012. God, who am I missing? Looking at all West teams, but Ottawa went because they lost. You said since 2007.
Yeah,
because they went to the Cup final, right?
Ottawa also went to Game 7 in 2017.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, and they lost that one tight.
They lost in double OT. They were that close to go.
Well, Columbus hasn't been in a conference final.
Yes.
And Flyers, Bruins, who am I missing? Well, the Hurricanes, obviously.
Hurricanes, Maple Leafs.
Columbus. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, right? That's it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, but Carolina's had, here's the crazy stat. If they don't win on Monday, Rod Brind'Amour is 0-12 as a head coach in a conference final. That is getting one win is crazy.
I've seen a lot of questions on social media saying, do you think the Hurricanes need to make a change at coach if they don't win? And I'm like, no,
oh my God.
No. That's not happening. Like Tom Dundon is on record saying that Rod Brind'Amour will be their coach for as long as he wants to be. Doesn't mean that doesn't change at some point, but in the here and now, this season, internally, I've mentioned this before, they were expecting to, basically be a 99-point, 100-point team and figured, hey, look, if a bunch of things go our way, maybe we could make it interesting. They get to the conference final, probably have exceeded internal expectations. And I think the thought process moving forward is look at the Metropolitan Division. If we just take care of business in our own division, we're going to have a really good shot every year. And I think their thought process is if we get close, who knows, maybe one of those times, if we keep breaking through in the Metro and getting to the conference final, that will be in a good spot and have a chance to play for a Stanley Cup.
Hey, the other one, has Detroit made it as an Eastern team?
No, they've gone as a Western team.
Yeah, they've been gone as a Western team. So technically they would be the other one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think that was the 4th team I was thinking of.
Right. Yeah. Because they went as a West team, but then they switched over to the East and they haven't been there since. So.
Right.
No. Okay.
Still amazing, by the way, like just for nostalgia purposes, that Detroit and Columbus played all those years in the West.
Wild. But it's interesting on Carolina there. It also shows you how hard it is to win. I think, in the NHL. And because, well, let's switch over to the West. Look at the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars now, everyone is like, hey, that division's really tough. This will be the third year in a row that they're going to lose to a Pacific Division team if they don't come back to Edmonton. And Edmonton has been the better team. If it wasn't for, just an atrocious 6 minutes for Edmonton in game one, who knows where the series would be at. Now, Stuart Skinner was excellent in the second period today. Dallas really took it to him and probably deserved a better fate. And they didn't gain any ground. They were still they were down 2-0 at the end of the first, and they end up down 3-1 at the end of the second, despite dominating the period. But for 7 of 9 periods, Edmonton has been clearly the better team in this series.
And the Oilers, I'm just double checking the number. The Oilers have trailed for a grand total of
probably 14 minutes. Right, the third period when they went up 4-3.
It's actually less than that. It's the game winning goal. Oh no, you're right. Sorry, it's 14 minutes and 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, 14 minutes and 2 seconds in 3 games. That's all they've trailed.
No, so no, they've, like I said it before.
That's actually indicative of the series, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I said before the series, if Dallas's depth guys don't wake up, they got no chance. And we're 3 games in, Frank, and Lean Bichelle has more goals in this series than a lot of the depth forwards 5-on-5 for Dallas. Like, you look at, we're into, game 16 of the playoffs now for Dallas. Duchesne, Ben, and Robertson have no goals 5-on-5. Like, it's hard. Way, like, I get if your fourth line guys aren't scoring, but those guys are, second and third line guys, right? Probably top 7, 8 forwards on their team, and they got nothing to show for 5-on-5.
Just a side note, Bichelle still raw, but I'm actually really liking what I'm seeing. I think he's going to be a pain in the ass for everyone to play against for the next while. Big
physical. Did you see him hammer Frederick? It probably should have been a penalty, but you know what? I like that there's a little nastiness. I like when it ramps up a little bit, and I agree with you on Dallas. When you look at a makeup of their blue line, there's a guy I'm talking about, Frank. They've got the Heiskanens, right? You got Harley. You've got the high-end guys, which you need. But you got Lane Bichelle, and this guy's wait until 2 years. You don't think he's going to be a top 4 defenseman playing big minutes? Oh, yeah. And he doesn't have to bring you much offense. Who cares?
He might be the next Nico Mikkola.
Oh, well, and look how many years it takes, right? Like, Mikkola's huge body, but look at some of his hits, right? So, like, look at Petrovic. You see that hit on Connor Brown? You don't see hard hits like that very often in the NHL. And it's hard, but I think that's a perfectly clean body check.
Okay, so I'll be the one to say it because I've been on him and I've been critical at varying points. But inarguably, the most shocking part of this series is that Stuart Skinner has crushed Jake Ottinger in the head-to-head matchup.
2 years in a row.
Shocking. I mean, this is a guy who's, I mentioned before, he's been the binary goalie. Was this the first game all playoffs long that he won and didn't have a shutout and had a respectable save percentage?
Yeah.
Is that right? I mean, that's like, let me read that back again. One, didn't have a shutout and has a respectable save percentage. First time all playoffs that's happened.
Yeah.
And by the way, he played a really good game. He made some really key saves.
Huge. He was really good. For especially in the second period, but I really think his save on Blackwell in the first might have been his best save of the game.
Yep, agree.
But it's funny, Frank, if you look at Stuart Skinner's numbers now, in the playoffs, despite some of the tough games, Stuart Skinner now has a .902 save percentage and a .266 goals against. Jake Ottinger has a .906. Freddie Anderson, .907. Like, it's not, Logan Thompson, who's obviously not playing anymore, but if you look at the goalies that are left, guys, like, goalie numbers this year in the playoffs aren't off the charts. Bobrovsky has a .911 in the playoffs, Anderson a .907, Ottinger a .906, and Skinner a .902.
Ottinger .906, but he's been terrible this series. It's crushed his numbers.
Yeah.
Well, I know Pete DeBoer came out and had a full-throated, hey, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jake Ottinger. But as Tyler just pointed out in the chat, Ottinger has an .848 save percentage in 4 career postseason games at Rogers Place.
Well, if you go
4-8.
Like, look at the goals in the afternoon game. So you look at the first goal, I don't know how through a screen, maybe you want to save. But if you look at the second goal, it's a give and go. Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, not much of a chance. The third goal, Hyman has a breakaway right after Dallas is pressuring all day, and then great outlet pass from Nugent Hopkins. But I'm sure the Stars will tell you we can't allow that pass to go through and let Hyman get behind us, right? Then you look at Hyman's other goal from Kane, maybe McDavid's second goal. I thought it was a nice shot, but maybe that's the one that you say, hey, Ottinger should stop.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe that one. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
fair. I don't think by any stretch it's all on him. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying if you would have thought going into the series, and I've vocalized this a few times, Dallas had a massive advantage in goal heading into the series on paper.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Skinner, and I've crunched all the numbers, Skinner has played 30 playoff games, Frank. 5 of them have been, the numbers really skew everything. His other 25 starts, he has a 2.1 goals against average and a .917 save percentage. It's those 5 games that are, and that's the thing that it skews his numbers in a smaller sample, but it casts doubt on people to say, hey, what's going on? So I understand it, but he is a guy who, when he, like last year, after he got pulled and he sat out 2 games against Vancouver, his final 17 games, you're like, hey, or 15 game, excuse me, you take that all day long. And he was a main reason why they beat Dallas last year. He only allowed more than 2 goals once in the series. And in game 6, he completely stole the game.
Crazy. Should we also give some love to Evan Bouchard?
Because hey, man, Bouchard, hey, he's getting $10 million, Frank. Mark it down. I know people are, oh, you can't give him $10 million. I'm like, what are you talking about? Look at his numbers. And the thing about Bouchard is no one can say he's relying on Matthias Ekholm, right? Matthias Ekholm hasn't played a playoff game this year. And Evan Bouchard he's got 17 points. You look at his goals, 4 goals against.
Straight playoffs with at least 17 points.
Yeah. He's
now got 75 career points in 67 career playoff games. That is a 93-point pace over an 82-game regular season, and he's doing that in the postseason. He's now something like his all-time numbers for defensive players in points. He's rocketing up the charts, and he's played half the games as some of these other guys.
The only defenseman in NHL history who's played 50 games and has a higher points percentage is Bobby Orr.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think it's all right. Yeah, Evan Bouchard, can he frustrate you at times? Maybe looks a little bit lackadaisical. Sure, I get it. But come playoff time, man, he's a 1.12 points per game right now. In 67 games, he's got 75 points. And if you look at him, he's already all-time. He's now up to 33rd, right? He just passed Rob Blake and Gary Suter.
Rob Blake's played double the games.
Yeah.
And this is a Hall of Fame Rob Blake. Yes. Not just some schlub. Hall of Fame defenseman Rob Blake, half the games just passed him on the list.
Here's 2 active players, Frank. Brent Burns. Okay, actually 3. Alex Pietrangelo has played 149 games. He has 80 points. Brent Burns has played 133 games. He has 79 points. John Carlson, offensive defenseman, 137 games. He's got 78 points. Evan Bouchard, 67 games, 75 points. If the Oilers go to the Cup final, which it looks like they will, there's a really good chance he's going to pass those guys this year in points.
But let's rewind back because we have to. This is part of the story. This regular season, Bouchard had a ton of arrows slung his way. In fact, I talked to Stan Bowman about this on Frankly Speaking right before the trade deadline. And he said there's so few players in the world that can do what Evan Bouchard does. And we were in this spot where we're thinking okay, depending on how this Oilers season ends, how the playoffs go, this might be a guy that the Oilers are going to have a really difficult decision on their hands. Do we sign him? Do we explore the trade market? What do we do here? Because it's going to be very expensive. I know they were trying to keep, at some point, that AAV in the 8s on a long-term deal. And there's no way it's going to happen. You're right. Mark it down. $10 million.
It's $10 million.
But the problem for them is, and not to get too over our skis, but Bouchard at 10, Nurse at 9.25, Draisaitl at 14, McDavid, pencil him in for 16. And then how else do you figure out the rest of the roster?
Well, I think you have the superstars, and Evan Bouchard right now is a superstar defenseman. He's training that way. It's three consecutive playoffs where he has elevated his game and been dominant. He'll have nights in the regular season in November where some people will pull their hair out and they'll freak out because he didn't go back hard enough to a puck.
Just play the tape. Play the tape.
Yeah, it's not going to matter. And so, it'll be hard. But when I would pay guys, Frank, first of all, he's only 25. So, you're going to sign him to an extension. He's not going to be old when the extension's over. So that's the advantage. B, you chase to get elite production guys. And the concern is that you overpay them when they're starting to go downhill. And we've seen lots of that. None of these guys have shown that yet. Right now, the final year or two of Draisaitl's, sure, it'll be 36, maybe. But by then, the cap could be $140 million.
It will be. I can tell you that. It's a lot worse. The other problem is trying to get a player like that, I think.
Oh,
to your point.
Like, there was a play I watched in the game that I look at when you say there's not many guys. The Oilers, there was a play at the blue line. Bouchard was being heavily pressured, and he just has the confidence and the skill with about a 6-inch space, so it doesn't put himself doesn't bring the puck outside the blue line, and he just dangles around the Dallas forward. And I was like, oh my God. Like, there's Cale Makar, there's a few guys who have the nuts to do it and do it repeatedly, right? And that's what Bouchard has. And the other thing, though, Bouchard, now he's killing penalties, right? He's not on your main penalty kill. I don't want him to be, but he kills penalties, and he's been fine. And he's on your power play, but he's playing big minutes 5-on-5 without Matthias Ekholm. So no one can say his security blanket, that's the only reason he has good goal for numbers or whatever. He's showing that, you know what? He's not going to be Jacob Slavin defensively, but he doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we are hurtling toward our first Stanley Cup final rematch in back-to-back years since the Penguins and Red Wings in 08-09.
Yeah.
This is the way too early 3-word preview, but I need you to tell me right now who wins and in how many games, and you may amend it later.
Well, I got to stick with the pick I had at the start of the playoffs. It'd be kind of stupid to change. So I would say Edmonton in 6.
So I was looking back on our preseason predictions, and I said the Oilers win the cup. So I don't know if I feel like I need to go there, but who's derailing the Panthers? I mean, it might be the Oilers, but I'm saying they are a force. A force.
Well, now when you go back to back, so you had the Red Wings and the Penguins, and they split. Mm-hmm. Was the last one prior to that the Oilers and the Islanders in 83, 84?
I think so.
Yeah. So they split. Man, it's tough. Like, obviously Florida is very good, but Florida went to game 7 against Edmonton since their first 2 games against LA. Ever since then, the Oilers have been dominant, right? And they beat LA 4 straight. Then they went
but the
8-1.
Panthers have gotten better as each game has gone on as well. Like they're
in this
playing
series
their best hockey right now.
Yeah, but is Carolina that good? I guess that's the question, right? Like, you got to remember, Florida had to go to game 7 against Toronto.
Florida's 8-1 in their last 9. Or 7-1 in their last 8.
Yeah.
Doesn't get much better than that in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, same with Edmonton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're good. They're both good, right? There's no Edmonton's 10-2 in their last 12. So yeah, it'll be, I love rematches, man. Edmonton a little healthier this year. Kane, Frederick, they got guys that can push back. I think it could be an absolute slobber knock. And I know Dallas Stars fans are probably listening right now and saying, you two idiots are getting way ahead of yourself. And that's fair. I think but to me, Dallas would have to have a pretty big about face the way they're playing in this series to come back and win.
They
3
might
of the
win a
next
couple
4.
games, but they're not winning the series.
No. Yeah, Edmonton's look better team for sure. And Connor McDavid starting to score. That's a big thing for Edmonton. He was, you know what? You get McDavid scoring goals, that's just a whole new element for a team and they just had their 18th guy score a goal in John Klingberg. So the Oilers and the Panthers each have 18 players with a goal. The NHL record, in case anybody's wondering, is 21. But funny enough, Frank, the 2 teams who had guys score 21, had 21 different players score a goal, they both lost the cup. The Bruins in 2019 and the Flyers in 87. So
I'm just double checking I think you're right. I think the last before 2008-9, the last 2 teams that played in back-to-back years are 83-84 Islanders, Oilers.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm stupid as I'm scrolling through this, but I don't think I'm not missing anything.
No. I don't think there was, because you can go through all the years.
There's a lot of teams that went twice. There's a lot of teams that went 3 or 4 times in a 5-year span, but they all played someone different.
Yeah. Like Edmonton and Boston played each other twice, but that was in 88 and 90. They played the Flyers in 85 and 87, but never back to back.
Yeah, the Red Wings went a bunch of times. Obviously, the Devils went a ton of Devils, Red Wings in 95. And then
now, what about Dallas and New Jersey, 99, 2000? Did they go back to back?
No, it was Dallas, Buffalo in 99.
Right.
And then
the Brett Hall
New Jersey beat Dallas in 2000. That's why I was saying there's a whole bunch of them that are similar, but not the same.
Yeah. So one of the teams goes back to back. So it would be, if it happens, man, I think it'd be a pretty big number for fans across the league, because you know what? You got 2 good teams. You got a rivalry built in. Can Canada end their drought? We'll see.
Look, I'm so impressed with what the Panthers have done, but just from a pure eyeballs perspective, it's still not moving the needle in the U.S. I think that was one of the really disappointing things about being in Florida last year for Game 7 was just that you left the arena, and other than the party going on inside, which was I walked out of the arena at like 2-something, it was raging on the suite level. Like they were having a ball. But you'd have no idea otherwise. Like I left, nothing, saw nothing, heard nothing. Airport the next day, yawn. It was a Tuesday, like nothing ever happened. I just, from a pure market perspective and an eyeball perspective, just wish that it was bigger.
That's fair. That is fair. Let's welcome in Ty Yaremchuk to the pod. Ty, how you doing?
I'm doing good, boys. Ready to roll with a new edition of Fill in the Blank, brought to you by Bet365, an official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. From game props, player props, to even series odds and futures bets, they have it all at Bet365.
He just had a sip of the spicy peach margarita.
No, I'm eating an ice cream while we do this. Actually, it's delicious, and I had
a peanut butter parfait.
It is a peanut butter parfait, Greg's. It's delicious.
Where's that from?
Dairy Queen.
Are you trying to channel your inner Brad Marchand having a blizzard during the intermission?
That is a great tie in there. And the little selfie they all had, I don't know if you guys saw that the night before. There was like 6 Panthers teammates all eating their blizzards in Carolina. Brad Marchand fitting in very well in Florida. I got one on that series in a second, but one thing, you were talking Western Conference Final. If I missed it, my apologies, but the Darnell Nurse slash on Rupe Hintz was blank, Frank.
Oh my God, it's a lot of things. Careless, unfortunate, stupid, routine, overblown. I could go on and on. It's a slash that happens hundreds of times throughout an NHL season. It sucks that he appeared to catch Hintz in a legitimate place that truly did injure him. And as a chop that, given the moment in time as well, if you're Chris Knobloch, you're going, here we go again, right? You just gave up the previous game 3 goals on the power play. You're up in the 3rd period, and this is what one of your leaders is doing far away from the puck. Stupid. But to think, oh, this needs to be a major or some kind of suspension. And then Pete DeBoer rolls in the whole McDavid. If this was him, you know, it'd be a difference. Like, come on, just like it was Rich. Like McDavid has had the least special treatment of any superstar, maybe in the game's history. He's the most undercalled player of all time in terms of drawing penalties, given his relative time with the puck on his stick and impact in the game and speed. And that's the guy that you want to point to and make a comparison? Come on.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, Greg. Just quickly, McDavid 19th in penalties drawn in these playoffs. Roope Hintz second in the NHL. But go ahead, Greg.
That's actually a good stat.
Well, you got love from Stat Guy, so he said that was a good stat.
Big one.
I look at the play and I think overblown. Like, I love the emotion. People get fired up. Roope, now, to me, I'm going to say well placed, because you'll see guys get slashed lots and nothing really comes from it. But there's lots of little small bones in your foot. And if you look where that slash is, Frank, it's right on the laces. So he obviously caught him somewhere, because I watched the warm up. Roope Hintz was literally on the ice for 5 minutes. I saw him take 2 hard strides and he's like, nope. And he went off. You saw him having a long talk with the trainer, and then obviously didn't play. So clearly it's like it hit a pressure point or something. But you're right. Like, I was talking to a few guys in the press box and former players, like, man, like, guys slash each other like that, like, all the time. Now, if you want to get rid of them all, okay. But you can't suddenly, because one revolves in a guy getting injured, when it happens all the time. Like, guys just turn around, whack. And maybe they shouldn't. That's a whole different conversation. But I would say well placed, because obviously it got him to the point where he had to miss a game.
How many pricks did you play against growing up that when you'd line up, they knew exactly how to get you right on the laces? It was usually a little bit further up the boot, and you just be like, oh my God. But it'd be 14 times a game in the same game. And like, there's no way to call that. This one was just blatantly obvious because it was so far away from everything else. But come on, suspension? Get out of here. Major? Get a life.
Yeah, the major one, I was like, come on.
And like, look, I'm not knocking Roope Hintz and his toughness at all, because look, I'm sure he's a warrior. But the only thing I can think of is the line from Miracle. You've got basically a do or die situation for your team next game too. And I could just hear the Herb Brooks line. That's a long way from the heart. That's all I can say.
All right. Next one I got for you guys here. Obviously, the Hurricanes getting steamrolled by the Panthers is bringing up the same conversation we have every year with the Hurricanes. They don't have a difference maker. They don't have a star. That's leading a lot of people to do the, free agency, Mitch Marner thing. The Hurricanes signing Mitch Marner, I mean, we can talk about realistic, whatever, but the Hurricanes signing Mitch Marner would be blank, Greg's.
I don't think it would change much long term.
Might give him a little bump.
Like, it would, you know what? It would help them in the regular season, but they would have to add other elements. Now, if you could get Mitch Marner and Sam Bennett, then you might be onto something, because Bennett brings them an element that they do not have amongst their forward group.
I'm trying to think of a clever way to say this, and I can't really find a way to say it, because I was going to be like, I was going to make a whole different kind of joke that, wouldn't go over that well. But let's just say it's not possible. How about that? Because if Mitch Marner was gonna go to Carolina, he would have waived and gone to Carolina when his team was trying to get rid of him at the deadline.
Fair. I mean, there is the element of like, would he want to leave in the middle of the season? He felt like they could still do the thing in Toronto. And now that the door's closed with Toronto, if it is, it's like that's a good spot to live. You could live in relative anonymity, which maybe he'd value.
I'm shrugging. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess anything's possible. I mean,
fair. All
again,
right.
I'll say in parentheses within reason.
Yeah.
But
Frank, we touched on this in passing on Friday's episode of DFO Live, but the finalists for the GM of the Year award were announced the other day. It was Cheveldayoff, Jim Nill, and the third one, I'm blanking on it all of a sudden.
Bill Zito.
Bill Zito, correct. Obviously, the GMs vote on this themselves. We kind of do the whole laugh every year that it's like 2 guys who are in the conference finals and another guy. But who would your GM of the year be if you had a chance to vote on such an award, Frank?
Well, I'd have a real hard time not giving Bill Zito a fair share of credit. Look, getting Seth Jones and Brad Marchand and not paying a king's ransom to do it and having Seth Jones for the long haul is very impressive. They were going to be on the market to go out and get a player like Seth Jones in the summer anyway. And the fact that they were able to do it in season to help them go chase another Stanley Cup is huge. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff over a very long period of time has done a fantastic job, like an amazing job, in fact. But this year wouldn't have been the year for me to reward him with votes because I think they left their biggest need unfulfilled at the deadline. And I'm not even saying that's through his fault. Like sometimes the market just shapes up in a way that you can't go out and get that number 2 center that's a difference maker for you. And I get that that's sometimes how it works, but that also doesn't mean that you should win. So he's a finalist. I think there's probably some other pretty deserving candidates that are a bit off the board. Like, why didn't Doug Armstrong get more love?
Yes, of course. He had to be a finalist for me. Look what he did in season, right? Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway and gave up a second and a third and a young prospect in Fisher. And then Holloway goes out and has 60 points. Broberg's playing 20-some minutes a night for your team. And then, oh, by the way, you go out and give Cam Fowler and give up, what, a second-round pick? And Cam Fowler is like unreal for your team. I know you lost, but your job as a GM is to make your team better. And
you
Dylan
didn't even mention the biggest thing, which was the coaching change. You fired the guy that you just extended and hired the best damn coach in the league, or one of them. And because you said, you know what, as much as I like you, Drew Bannister, I've got something better here and I'm making a change. Huge cojones.
Huge moves. Like imagine if Dylan Holloway's healthy. Maybe they win in 7. Like, we'll never know, but that's not the GM. That doesn't mean you're a bad GM because you have bad luck. So to me, like, if we're just talking for this calendar year, which is what the award should be, it's not about what you've done long-term. And I hate it. Vote on it for what happened from July 1st until now. That's what the award's supposed to be. And Doug Armstrong from July 1st until now should have been a finalist for sure. It would have been hard to beat out Zito because the guys he acquired for the low cost are massive. They were a good team, but he still made his team better, which sometimes is harder. It's easier to make a bad team better than it is to make a great team better.
That's fair. All right,
hey, Stan Bowman deserves a little love too. Do the Oilers get here without Jake Wallman, without
Klingberg,
and without Frederick?
Podkolzin, right? Like there's 4 regulars in your lineup, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Like the 2 signings that in quotes haven't worked out for them, Arvidsson and Skinner, those were before Bowman was hired, right? And you look at kind of everything he's done to make up for that. Kapanen, you said Podkolzin. It is interesting. You touched on this obviously before I popped on, but I figured I'd give some love to it anyways. The Stanley Cup odds always updating over at Bet365, and for the first time this year, we have a team that is minus money to win the Stanley Cup as the Panthers come in at minus 115. So Bet365 says they have roughly a 56% chance of winning it all right now. So you can check out all the updated futures over on Bet365. That is a wrap on this week's edition of Fill in the Blank.
So they're going to be the favorite, fair to say, regardless of what happens.
Yeah. So I asked you before and you said, I'm sticking with my pre-playoff pick. Oilers in what?
Oilers in 6.
All right. I think I might have to go Panthers in 7.
Yeah. Well,
a rematch of the rematch.
Yeah. This year, Edmonton has home ice. We'll see if that matters or not, but that's
all I know is that was one of the most exhausting series I've ever covered.
Oh, yeah.
27,000 miles on the plane.
Yeah, that's a lot of travel. Well, that's why if they do face off against each other, there's going to be the 2 days between games 2 and 3. And then again, the game between 4 and 5 and 5 and 6 and 6 and 7. You have to. Now, if it's Dallas, you might not have to. Maybe they do it anyway, Frank.
They're doing it anyway. It's already scheduled.
Are they okay? But it's infinitely easier travel Florida to Dallas.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're talking like all you have to do is cross the Gulf of America and you're in good shape.
Hey, speaking of America, Frank, the 92-year drought is over. Team USA wins at the World Championship. It's not the one they wanted this year. 4 Nations was that one, but obviously you know what? I know that in North America, maybe it's not as big, but it is for the players who go there, and it's huge in Europe. What do you make of the World Championships and how this, if anything, is going to help Canada USA against Canada at the Olympics?
I don't know if it's going to help them at all. I don't even know if it's applicable. I mean, I think what it does though is when you see someone like Tage Thompson have a big tournament and score a clutch goal like that, an OT winner.
Yeah.
That's a guy that probably should have made the team to begin with last year at Four Nations. I know
agree.
You're president of the Tage Thompson fan club, so you are in agreement, but I think there was like 3 to 4 guys on that team that were probably a little bit misplaced. And it's not that they didn't play well. In fact, I thought one of the real hallmarks of that team was that they actually had an identity, and they were created in the identity and vision of their general manager and Bill Guerin, who has a very similar approach with his Wild team. Yes, there's high skilled players, but they're going to be big and they're going to be physical and they're going to try and run you over.
Yeah.
And that US team had a bit of that. I think the next most important thing is that they really, for the first time at USA Hockey, put some heat on some players, not the organization, but I'm telling you, player to player, to say, hey, get your ass over to Sweden because this matters now. Like, you got to work at it. You actually have to show up. And so I think that part, the fact that more players than maybe typically normal had committed, that means something. And also maybe there's this funny thing to think about. We were just talking about Carolina and the idea of breaking through. Of all years that this is the U.S. team that actually breaks through and does it, average age 24 years old, youngest team in the tournament. The superstar quality of players, like they had good players, don't get me wrong, but compared to Canada, who bowed out in the quarters against Denmark, their roster wasn't nearly as star-studded. And in fact, heading into the gold medal game, they didn't have a player in the top 10 in tournament scoring. So it just kind of goes to show you sometimes weird things happen, but I think just keep stacking if you're the U.S. Wins upon wins. These are relatively foreign things for the U.S. 92 years since the last World Championship gold. It's been since 1980, the last Olympic gold, but you've got World Junior success, Women's World. Like, there's just everything that's happened this year for the U.S. and USA Hockey has been a massively positive development. And let's see what that means, if anything, heading into 2026. And I'm sure there's a lot of Canadians listening saying, sir, that means jack shit. And I would probably agree until the U.S. wins.
Well, I was stunned that Tage Thompson wasn't on the team. When you're that big and you've got that set of hands, I think that's a player that I would want on my team. And so for him, he's probably like, hey, USA Hockey, I'm over here. So just in case you forgot me.
Well, remember, they did bring him in at the very end.
Yes.
As a potential injury replacement. So look, for him, that's a statement made, and you only get an opportunity to make a statement like that if you show up. And
does the U.S. have a third goalie after Hellebuck and Ottinger that maybe they can use?
I'm
just joking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Swayman had a really good tournament, by the way.
No, he did. Yeah. No, they've got.
Did you? So another tweet that I saw, I just want to throw this out there. So Canada's World Hockey Championship results. They've had a pretty good run recently.
Yeah, that was the first time that they didn't make the semis in quite a while.
2019, silver. 2020 had COVID. 2021, gold. 2022, silver. 2023, gold. And then 2024 and 25, no medals. And some would say, what is the common thread that ties those Canadian teams with no medals? I don't know. I just saw some speculation on social media. It was Kyle Dubas helping build the team.
Is that what they're saying?
Well, he was the GM this time around, and last time around he was the assistant GM in 2024.
Yeah.
And they're out shockingly early.
Yeah, well, losing a lead to Denmark is going to have people who follow the tournament a tad upset, I would think. Not
Well,
a great outcome. Like, great for the Danes, though. It's
when
great
you
for
have
the Danes.
Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon,
McKinnon.
all these guys in the lineup, like, come on.
Yeah. Buddy, you can't stop Patrick Russell when he plays for the Danes. Okay?
Gets you every time.
Yeah, totally, buddy. The power of the shaved head, buddy. Kidding me? But did you see the crowd though when they went? Like, I love that stuff, man. Like, I've been to Europe to a hockey game, Frank. I don't know if you've ever been to, like, I went to Cologne, Germany. It's one of the greatest hockey games I've ever been to in my life, as far as the atmosphere in the building. Yep. Unbelievable. So
yeah, I've seen pro games in Switzerland. I've been to global series and all sorts of stuff.
Like, they do it. Hey, man,
World Juniors. I've done a bunch of World Juniors in overseas.
Yeah, we got a ways to go. Like, the singing and the standing, like, they have a little bit more fun. They just do. So I think it
you're saying it's exactly like a Leaf game.
Very, very, very close. Yes. Yeah. Very, very close. But honestly, I think you could, even in the regular season, I think North America in a lot of markets could realize, you know what? We got to have a little bit more fun. Oh, excuse me, sir. Can you sit down? Like, no. Stand up. Like, I love in Dallas, I'll say this. You look at the Stars games, how often, especially the side of one side of the rink is standing up, like, a lot of the time. I think it's awesome. So I just think, you know what? Especially now, you're paying huge money. My God, you might as well have as much to cheer about and get engaged into it, because it's hard to get bang for your buck when you're unloading as much cash as you have to unload in the playoff game now.
Mm-hmm.
So might as well get in and have a little fun. Frankie, by the time we talk, Thursday we can't officially know, but do the Panthers find a way to end the drought? By the way, there's only one team that's even lost double digits.
Did the Canes find a way to end the drought?
Yeah, but there's only one other team that's even lost 10 in a row in the conference final. That was Toronto way back in 54 to 56. Like, what the Hurricanes are doing
as a conference final, there were only 2 rounds.
Yeah, well, anything before the final, that's what they call it. So, semifinals. It's called conference finals or semifinals. Same thing.
Yeah, sorry. That doesn't count. That's also known as the first round back in the original 6 era.
Hey, it was still the semifinal. So in the semifinal, there's obviously it doesn't happen very often. And do they end it or do they continue it on to 16?
I think they end it.
Oh, they're going to win game 4. All right.
I just don't know if Rod Brind'Amour will say it's a sweep this time.
Well, there won't be if they win.
No, I'm saying I think Florida ends it.
Oh, Florida. Oh, so you're saying the drought extends to 16?
Yes.
Oof. Yeah, I don't think you could say that this time they were close because, what about last game? It's 1-1 going into the third, Frank. And then they score, and you're like, okay, it's close. And then boom, boom. They scored 4 goals in 4 minutes. Off.
Yeah, that's why I don't have much faith for to get them on the board, because they looked so dejected. Like, they knew, it was almost like they knew that they were in a different category.
Yeah. Well, Frank, have yourself a wonderful week. We will chat later on. That's the rundown brought to you by Bet365. Enjoy the games.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.